A congregant called to speak with me a few weeks ago on Zoom. He was really, really frustrated. He said, "Cantor Jackie, my wife just accused me of having zero empathy. I just don't understand why she feels that way." Well, I just looked at him and he said, Cantor Jackie, it's gotten so bad that even my mom, she said that I'm starting to lack empathy. I just can't understand how she could feel like that. Sound like somebody you may know in your life or come in contact with? In order to understand another's concerns, you first have to not just hear them, but we must listen to what they're saying. What is the difference between listening and hearing? Hearing is simply the act of perceiving sound by ear. If you are not hearing impaired, hearing simply happens. With assistance, we can also hear. It's that sound and connection, that impulse. And all of our medical professionals know this much better than I do. But there's a distinction. Listening, however, is something that you consciously choose to do. Think about it. Listening requires concentration so that your brain processes meaning from words and sentences. You may be familiar with a version of the Shema by Doug Kotler, and I bring this up because he doesn't say, "Hear, O Israel," in his Shema. He uses the word listen. And if you listen to his lyrics, and I'll just quote a few for a moment, it reminds us, the rabbis say we must concentrate, we must have full concentration when we recite Shema, which is the reason why you'll see people put their hands to their heads and really, really focus inward. But it's not the hearing that we're focusing in, we're focusing on the listening. Doug Kotler says, if you're lost and you feel afraid and you don't know what to say, then listen to your God. Is there a question on your mind? Is the answer hard to find? Then listen to our God. Let me ask, do you care enough to step out of your own comfort zone, which also includes the banner of all the good work that you have done in your life, and really listen to the voice and the sound, but really listen to the words and what's behind the words of the other? Okay, the month of Elul is officially over. I'm looking out there. It is the first of Tishrei, okay? And I'll say hallelujah. It is a new year. It is dawned. But tell me the truth. Did anyone who really wanted to become more empathetic, maybe that was a quality you had chosen to work on, did you actually realize this quality about yourselves and really try to do something about it? Now don't worry, there's plenty of time, but I'm asking the question because it's very, very hard to do. I commend you on your journey. It is not easy. If you're curious, here are some typical examples of what a lack of empathy and suggestions for improvement. And this comes from Laura Click. And just the distinction between empathy and sympathy, which you may know. When we have empathy, we are feeling with someone. When we have sympathy, we are feeling sorry. And not that that's bad, but we're feeling sorry for someone. There's a difference in the action of connection and the presence. Okay, so here are some examples. Perhaps you've run across someone like this in your life. You don't have to say who it is, but it kind of puts it into perspective. I've got 7 examples. The first is a dodger. As soon as they hear something bad, that is, I've said to someone something is not good, gotta run. I'll check back, bye, see ya. Number 2 is the positive picker-upper. well, at least cancer is very treatable, or at least you have other children, gotta go by. The minimizer. That's really not so bad. I mean, did you hear what happened to Jenny? The advisor. Oh, you're an expert on everything. Expert on everything. I have plenty of solutions. I know just how to take care of that and just how to handle that. The storyteller. Oh yes, you know, this happened to me a lot of years ago, and this is how I handled it, and the story goes on and on and on. Or how about the one-upper? The one-upper. You lost your parent? Oh, I don't have either of my parents. And then finally, we have the dramatist. You find out that you have stage 4 renal cell carcinoma, and then you tell your friend, and your friend starts crying and wailing and weeping and is completely distraught. And then you find that you are the one with the diagnosis and you have to comfort your friend. Now, I'm not saying this is coming from a bad place. I'm just saying these are qualities that we all have. There's an element of this in all of us. Has anybody recognized this in someone else or themselves? Online? Anybody? You can give me a nod if you've ever experienced this with somebody in your life. There are some knowing nods. It's impossible not to, and again, even if you're reflecting on yourself, and if you are, good for you, it's hard work to actually be able to recognize this and do something about it. And it's not impossible. I mean, sometimes, yes, there is a natural propensity for being an empath, for having that sense, but sometimes life is taught it. Qualities of empathy, here are some suggestions. Number 1, listen deeply. Number 2, connect with another's feelings. Number 3, acknowledge their pain, recognize it. Don't own it, but recognize it. Show them love. Love can be buying them their favorite coffee in the morning and just having it there on the counter when they come into work. And then finally, do something as opposed to saying, well, I'll be there, or not that you don't mean it, but actually there may be an action that'll help in many ways. Why is empathy so important, and why do we bring it up tonight? Eric K. Ward, in his powerful article, Skin in the Game, says, Skin in the Game is subtitled, How Anti-Semitism Animates White Nationalism. He shares the experience of attending a white nationalist conference. Although as a really well-known now black man, he was perceived as a potential ally against the true threat. And do you know who those people were, the true threat? Not so much the Eric representing of people who could ally with, but yes, the Jews. If Mr. Ward had not listened to what certain communities were saying, he would never have become such an instrumental force for civil rights and for the advancement of Black-Jewish relations that he is today. Are we hearing or are we listening to each other? If we're really listening to each other, then it wouldn't be as much of a struggle to understand why there's such a challenge in some Black and Jewish circles. Even understanding the phrase Black Lives Matter means that someone's hearing something, but they're not listening to what it means, if you're really looking at it. And that's caused a division through basically a lack of understanding. How can we address and repair discord between communities if we don't first ask ourselves the hard questions? If we don't listen to the ways that we interpret and understand the world we live in? Our relationships with our spouses, our children, our parents, our co-workers, we must first clean our own house and acknowledge our own inherent biases. A few months ago, during a Zoom Shabbat service, I asked everyone on Zoom, I asked everybody to think of an image of someone, what they thought of what represented Judaism to them. Who was like the quintessential image of who is Jewish? And something that may have reminded you of your Jewish upbringing. And it was really telling. I'll share the core thought that I kept going back to, that was ingrained in my deep consciousness. Okay? It was my grandma. She made karsha varnishkis. She spoke Yiddish. She was white and Ashkenazic from Eastern Europe. But not all Jews are what we call Ashkenormative, right? Immediately my thought went there. I admit that out, even though I've done a lot of study and a lot of dialogue. But we are Sephardic Jews, we are Mizrahi Jews, we are Jews of color, we are indigenous people, we are all walks of life. We can't really begin to address the inequities in our world until we do so at home. And to this end, something here at Shirat Hayam we're doing is in October, on my Tuesdays, my Connect with Cantor Jack series, we're going to begin by discussing a fabulous book by Maragad called The Color of Love. And we'll use this as a vehicle to start a discussion that hopefully will grow into a deeper sense of commitment to the issue of racial justice, but also understanding Jews of color and our own Jewish identity. It's a multi-movement issue. It is not specific to Reform or Conservative or Orthodox or anything. This is all ours. In a Devar Torah on Parshat Mishpatim, Rabbi Shai Held speaks to turning memory into empathy. He says it's the Torah's ethical charge. You shall not oppress the stranger, for you know the feelings of the stranger, having yourselves been strangers in the land of Egypt. That's from Exodus chapter 23. The word ger does not, the ger actually technically means an alien in a place where they live. It's stranger, but it's more than that. An alien in a place where they live is a vulnerable person, and we're all vulnerable, and the other is vulnerable. Therefore, the Torah's call is not based on a rational argument, but on an urgent demand for empathy. Leviticus 19:33 and 34 says the stranger who is vulnerable, underneath that is your neighbor. So the neighbor is the person we're thinking of is really a vulnerable stranger. You shall love him as yourself. We must step into the stranger's shoes and see how it fits. Which attribute would you choose to develop during the year ahead in order to better understand the other? Will you identify and dissect your personal biases? Will you partner with someone who believes completely different than you in order that you may understand? A rabbinic colleague recently attended a convention for an organization she did not support, but genuinely wanted to learn and to see what she could learn in order to understand this particular community better. And while she did not agree with most of the platform, one accomplishment did impress her, and she was proud to be able to share that information as well as her growth. Well, she was publicly vilified for attending and focusing on a positive element. We'll never succeed and we'll never grow together if we don't understand and listen. As many of you may know, pluralism, especially Jewish religious pluralism, is a subject very dear to my heart. And during my rabbinical school classes at the Academy of Jewish Religion, my chevruta, my Talmud study partner, is from a mixed Conservadox, Ashkenazic, and Orthodox Sephardic background. And I'm from a mix of conservative and then cultural, and then evolving into very formative and really strongly based reform. But I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. That's more tomorrow's talk. Our discussions have evolved into an exploration of rabbinic teachings and how they could be interpreted in both our worlds, with equal respect to our different approaches to halakha, or Jewish law. Here in our communal home of Shirat Hayam, we are particularly attuned with the need to listen to one another and give some space between reacting to a trigger about reform or conservative and try to become better understanding of where our fellow congregant is coming from. The road is long, and the path can be hard, but we take that journey together with curiosity, excitement, and joy. I'll leave you with a little story. So the bottom falls out of an airplane, and all the passengers hold themselves up in the conveniently placed assist grips. The usual jingle is heard, and through the speaker, as the co-pilot slowly and clearly says, "Just now, all of our fuel has been used." The frightened passengers look at each other, and the pilot speaks again with heavy breathing. We need to lose some weight to assure a safe landing. If you are unselfish, brave, and willing to be a hero, please let go of the assistive grips. Well, a deep voice pierces the air. "I'm on it." A middle-aged man says, letting go and falling to his doom. Amused by his empathy and bravery, the rest of the passengers proceed to clap. We're all in it together, everyone, my friends. Let's treat each other with compassion and kindness and step into another one's shoes now and again. You might be surprised to find that it fits. I wish you Shana Tova, Mituka, May 5781 be a year of great blessing, good health, kindness, and compassion and empathy. Amen.